All right, I wanted to talk about the conditions that need to be satisfied for certain tests. Right, here it's for two sample proportion test. But the main thing I want you to understand, every test that we do throughout the rest of the semester, there's going to be conditions that need to be satisfied. And it's very important that you verify that the conditions are satisfied before you plug your data into StatCrunch and get results from StatCrunch. The reason why is if the conditions are not satisfied, well, when you plug your data into StatCrunch, StatCrunch is still going to spit out answers, but those answers are not going to be reliable. All right, they're no good. All right, there's conditions that have to be satisfied. Now, for a two-sample proportion test, the first condition is the number of data values in your first sample times the proportion in your sample. That's the hat, the little hat above the P. That means it's the proportion from your sample. That has to be greater than or equal to 10. Likewise, the number times the quantity 1 minus the proportion in the first sample. That also has to be greater than or equal to 10. Similar for sample 2. They got to be, those little calculations got to be greater than or equal to 10. If you get 9 or 8 or something, you got to get a different sample, all right? Because the data, the results that StatCrunch will spit out aren't going to be valid. They aren't going to be reliable. So that's the first step. The second thing, in addition to this, the population has to be at least 10 times greater than the sample. You got to do that calculation. Make sure that that's satisfied. And the last thing is both samples, always our samples have to be randomly selected. If they're, otherwise there's going to be bias. 2, they need to be independent. Again, independent just means the results, the one sample doesn't have an effect on the other sample. That means they're independent. So for two sample proportions, these are the 3 conditions that have to be satisfied. But in general, every statistical test that we do for the rest of the semester is going to have conditions that have to be satisfied. You need to make sure that they're satisfied, because otherwise, as I've already explained, if they're not, the results that come out from StatCrunch aren't going to be reliable. And it's important that you make sure these are satisfied. And if you ever write up a paper or do a statistical analysis for one of your classes, you got to make sure that these conditions are satisfied. Otherwise, the results are meaningless.